The stars looked beautiful from the command deck of the orbital station. Admiral Taeyang Kim stood with his hands behind his back, watching Earth spin slowly below. He had seen this view 1,000 times, but today it felt different. Today, everything might change. Behind him, the communication officers worked quietly at their stations. Nobody talked much. They all knew what was coming. The Velcrin were coming, and when the Velcrin came to collect debts, people suffered. Taeyang had been in the fleet for 40 years. He remembered when humans first met the aliens. Back then, Earth was dying. The planet was overcrowded, resources were running out, and humanity was fighting over what little remained. Then the Velcrin arrived with their massive ships and their advanced technology. They offered help. They offered hope. But nothing in the galaxy was free. The Velcrin gave humanity the technology to reach other worlds. They gave them the tools to mine asteroids and build colonies on distant planets. They gave them medicine that cured diseases and engines that could cross star systems. In return, they asked for a simple thing: payment over time. Interest would be added, of course. That was only fair. The humans signed the contract. They called it the Eternal Debt Accord. At the time, it seemed like a good deal. Humanity would pay back what they owed bit by bit over the centuries. Easy. That was 200 years ago. Now humanity was still paying. The debt had grown larger every year because of something called compound interest. The more time passed, the more they owed. Humans paid with minerals from their colonies. They paid with scientific discoveries. They paid with art and culture. Eventually, they started paying with people. Thousands of humans now worked on Velcrin worlds, doing jobs the aliens did not want to do. They called it contract labor. Everyone knew it was slavery. A sharp beep came from the sensor station. The officer looked up, her face pale. "Admiral, they are here." Taeyang turned to face the main screen. Space twisted and bent, and then the ship appeared. The Sovereign's will was enormous, bigger than any human station. Its dark metal hull reflected no light. Weapons bristled along its sides like the spines of some ancient predator. This was a Velcrin dreadnought, designed to remind everyone who had the real power in the galaxy. "Send the standard greeting," Taeyang said quietly. His voice was steady, but his jaw was tight. Minutes later, the response came. Ambassador Thraxus appeared on the screen. The Velcrin looked like a massive insect, with 4 arms and eyes that glittered like black glass. When he spoke, his voice clicked and buzzed, translated by the computer into human language. "Admiral Kim, we come to discuss the debt. Your payment schedule has fallen behind. This is unacceptable." Taeyang felt his stomach tighten. "We have been making payments according to the agreement. Our records show everything is current." Thraxus made a sound like clicking stones. It might have been laughter. "The agreement has been recalculated. Interest rates have adjusted. The total debt is now far larger than before. Humanity owes more than it can ever repay. That is impossible. You cannot change the terms. We can do as we wish. You signed the accord. It gives us this right. Section 47, subsection 12. Read it yourself." Thraxus leaned forward, his mandibles spreading wide. "Humanity has 7 days to decide. Either surrender economic control of all your colonies to Velcrin administration, or face military action. We will take what we are owed." The screen went dark. For a long moment, nobody on the command deck moved. Then someone cursed softly. Another officer slammed her hand on her desk. Taeyang just stared at the empty screen. 7 days. In 7 days, humanity would become slaves in everything but name. The Velcrin would control their worlds, their resources, their future. And there was nothing they could do. The human fleet was strong enough to defend against pirates or raiders, but not against a Velcrin armada. If they fought, they would lose. Earth would burn. A door opened behind him. Taeyang turned to see Narration walk onto the deck. She was the chief diplomatic officer, responsible for all human relations with alien governments. She looked tired. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her uniform was wrinkled like she had not slept. "I watched the transmission," she said quietly. "We need to talk, privately." They went to his office, a small room with a desk and a window overlooking Earth. Nari sat down heavily and pulled out a data pad. "I've been going through the old archives," she said, "looking at the original contract, looking at human history before we met the Velcrin. And I found something. The Velcrin think debt is forever. Most alien species think the same way. When you owe something, you owe it until the end of time. Honor demands it. But humans, she looked up at him. Humans are different. We have always had ways to end debts. Bankruptcy, settlement, restructuring, we invented these things thousands of years ago. Taeyang frowned. So what? The Velcrin will not care about human customs. They will care about Galactic Coalition law. I found precedent. There are rules about contracts signed under duress. If we can prove the original accord was forced on us when we had no other choice, it becomes invalid. Can you prove it? Maybe, but there is another option. A better option? She tapped the data pad. We pay them. We pay the entire debt, all of it. Right now, Taeyang stared at her. For a moment he thought she had lost her mind. The debt was massive. Humanity had been paying for 2 centuries, and the amount had only grown larger. Paying it all at once was impossible. How? He finally asked. Nari smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone about to do something dangerous. We do what humans do best. We take risks nobody else will take. We work harder than anyone thinks possible. We sacrifice whatever we must. She leaned forward. The Velcrin do not understand us, Taeyang. They think we are weak because we needed their help. They think debt makes us slaves. They are about to learn something important. What? That when humans decide something must be done, we do not ask if it is easy. We do not ask if it is safe. We only ask if it is possible. And if it is possible, we make it happen no matter the cost. Taeyang looked at her for a long time. Then he looked out the window at Earth, spinning peacefully in the darkness. His home, the home of billions of humans, who did not know their freedom was about to, and unless they did the impossible, tell. Me your plan, he said, and Narihan began to explain how humanity would do what no species in galactic history had ever done. They would pay their debt in full immediately and completely, and in doing so they would shake the galaxy to its foundations. The meeting room was deep inside the orbital station, far from windows and prying eyes. Around the table sat the people who would decide humanity's fate. Admiral Taeyang Kim sat at the head. Beside him was Narihan, her data pad glowing with numbers and calculations. Across from them sat 3 others. Minho Choi was a thin man with sharp eyes and quick hands that moved constantly, sketching numbers in the air. He was the best economist humanity had, a man who saw the galaxy as a giant equation waiting to be solved. Next to him sat Yejin Song, commander of the mining operations in the outer colonies. Her face was hard and weathered, marked by years working in deep space. The last person was younger, a woman with burn scars on her left arm. Her name was Jiwon Park, and she commanded a squadron of cargo ships. But her eyes burned with something deeper than duty. 7 days, Taeyang said. In 7 days, the Velcrin take everything. Nori believes we can pay the debt instead. All of it, immediately. He looked around the table. I will be honest. It sounds impossible. But I want to hear it anyway. Minho stood up. He waved his hand and a hologram appeared above the table. Numbers floated in the air, too many to count. This is what we owe, he said, including compound interest penalties and the recent recalculation. It is more wealth than humanity has produced in its entire history. He paused. But wealth is just resources. Resources exist in space. Asteroids full of rare metals, gas clouds with exotic elements, stellar phenomena that produce materials worth fortunes. The galaxy is full of treasure. The problem is that most species will not touch it. Why not? Asked Taeyang. Because it is too dangerous. Mining near neutron stars, harvesting gas from the edges of black holes, working in radiation zones that kill most life forms within hours. Minho smiled coldly. Aliens calculate risk versus reward. When the risk is too high, they walk away. But humans, he looked at each person in the room. Humans calculate differently. We ask if something is possible, not if it is safe. Hyejin Song spoke up. Her voice was rough, like gravel grinding together. I have been preparing for this for 10 years, she said. After the Velcrin foreclosed on my home colony and took my family as contract workers, I knew we would have to fight back someday. I have been quietly modifying our mining equipment, training crews for extreme conditions. We have ships that can work in places no alien would dare go. We have people willing to take those risks. How many people? Taeyang asked. Enough. Volunteers from every colony. People who are tired of being slaves in everything but name. Hyejin leaned forward. Give me the word, Admiral, and I can have 1,000 ships in the Oort cloud within 48 hours. We will strip every asteroid, every comet, every frozen rock out there. Then we go deeper. The Kuiper Belt, the stellar nurseries, the neutron star clusters. We will harvest resources the galaxy has never touched. Jiwan Park had been quiet until now. When she spoke, her voice was soft but intense. My parents are on a Velcrin work colony right now. My brother too. They mine radioactive minerals without proper protection, because the Velcrin do not want to risk their own people. Every year, some of the workers die. The Velcrin just send more humans to replace them. Her hands clenched into fists. I have cargo ships, transport vessels. They are not made for combat, but they are fast and they are tough. Put me in charge of logistics. I will make sure every gram of material we mine gets delivered. I will work every pilot until they drop, and then I will work them some more. Whatever it takes. Narihan stood up now, her face serious. This is not just about gathering resources, she said. We need to be smart. The Velcrin built their empire on debt. They lend money to species who cannot refuse, then collect forever. But their economy depends on certain rare materials staying rare. If those materials become common, their whole system breaks. She smiled. So we do not just gather enough to pay our debt. We gather more, much more. We flood the market. We crash prices. We turn their weapons into weaknesses. That is economic warfare, said Taeyang quietly. Yes, and while we do it, I will use every legal trick humans ever invented. I will cite coalition laws the Velcrin think are just decoration. I will find precedents and loopholes. I will make noise and cause problems. I will make sure every species in the galaxy watches what we do. By the time we are finished, other debtor species will start asking questions. The Velcrin Empire is built on fear and debt. We are going to shake both foundations. Minho brought up another hologram. This one showed a timeline. We have 7 days. In 7 days, we need to gather resources worth more than humanity has ever possessed. Here is how we do it. Day 1. Mobilize every ship, every worker, every colony. Day 2 through 6. Total harvest. We work in shifts around the clock. No breaks longer than 4 hours. We push every machine and every person to their absolute limit. Day 7. We deliver payment. He looked at them. People will die. Equipment will break. Some ships will not come back. But if we commit fully, if we sacrifice whatever is necessary, we can do this. Taeyang sat back in his chair. He had fought in battles. He had seen friends die in the cold of space. But this was different. This was asking all of humanity to gamble everything on one desperate plan. If we fail, he asked. If we fail, we are no worse off than if we do nothing, Nari said. The Velcrin will take our colonies either way. At least this way we try. At least we show them that humans do not go quietly. Taeyang looked at each person around the table. Minho, the cold mathematician who saw people as numbers in an equation. Hijin, who had lost her family to alien greed. Jiwan, who burned with the need for revenge. Nari, who wanted to use the law itself as a weapon. These were the people humanity had produced. Hard people, desperate people, angry people. Maybe that was exactly what they needed. Do it, he said. Send the call to every colony. Total mobilization. Everyone who can work, works. Everyone who can fly, flies. We have 7 days to do the impossible. Nari smiled. Hijin nodded sharply. Chiwan's eyes blazed with fierce joy. Minho just started calculating again, his fingers dancing through the holographic numbers. The meeting ended. People rushed to their tasks. Within an hour, the message went out to every human colony, every station, every ship. The message was simple. Humanity calls. Answer now. And humanity answered. Thousands of ships lifted from colonies and stations. Miners who had been resting grabbed their gear and headed back to work. Scientists canceled their experiments and started calculating optimal extraction points. Engineers modified equipment for more extreme conditions. Pilots plotted courses into regions of space marked with warning signs. The galaxy watched with curiosity. Other species saw the sudden mobilization and wondered what the humans were doing. The Velcrin watched too, amused. They thought humanity was panicking. They thought this was desperation without purpose. They would learn their mistake soon enough. On her command ship at the edge of the Oort cloud, Yejin Song watched her fleet assemble. Ugly practical vessels designed for work, not war. Each one carried crews who knew they might not come home. She opened a communication channel to all of them. You know why we are here, she said. You know what we have to do. The galaxy thinks humans are weak. They think we exist to serve them. Today we show them the truth. We show them what humans can do when we stop caring about safety and start caring about results. Some of you will die out there. Your families will remember you as heroes. Now get to work. The fleet scattered into the darkness. They went to asteroids rich with platinum and iridium. They went to comets holding frozen gases worth their weight in gold. They went to places even their sensors warned them away from. And they worked. They worked like no species in the galaxy had ever worked. 20-hour shifts, 30-hour shifts. Some crews took stimulants to stay awake longer. Some welded themselves into their equipment seats so they would not waste time on breaks. Mining lasers burned day and night. Cargo holds filled and emptied and filled again. And people died. A ship ventured too close to a radiation zone and its crew succumbed within hours. Another miscalculated while mining a comet and was destroyed in the explosion. Equipment failures killed dozens more. But for every ship lost, 2 others moved in to take its place. For every worker who fell, another stepped forward. The harvest continued. In his office, Min-Ho Choi tracked every resource collected, every credit earned. The numbers grew, slowly at first, then faster. His calculations showed they might actually do it. They might actually gather enough, but they would need every single hour of those 7 days, and they would need to sacrifice much more before it was over. Day 4. The harvest was in full swing across human space. In the Kuiper Belt, hundreds of mining ships tore through ice and rock. Near Jupiter's orbit, crews extracted helium from the gas giant's atmosphere. In the asteroid fields between Mars and Jupiter, the work never stopped. Humanity had transformed itself into a single massive machine with one purpose: extraction. Ji-won Park had not slept in 3 days. She commanded the logistics fleet from her ship's bridge, surviving on coffee and stimulants. Her eyes were red, and her hands shook slightly, but she never stopped working. Cargo ships moved in constant streams, carrying resources from mining sites to processing stations to the main collection points near Earth. "Captain, we have a problem," her first officer said. "The transport convoy heading back from the neutron star region is late. They should have reported in 2 hours ago." Ji-won felt cold dread in her stomach. The neutron star region was one of the most dangerous zones they worked in. The radiation there could cook a ship in minutes if the shields failed. "Send a scout ship. Find them." An hour later, the scout returned with bad news. The convoy had suffered a shield failure. All 7 ships were lost, 53 people dead. But their cargo had survived, floating in shielded containers in space. "Recover the cargo," Ji-won ordered. "Send it to processing immediately." Her first officer looked uncomfortable. "Captain, should we not? I mean, those people died doing their duty. The best way to honor them is to make sure their sacrifice matters. Recover the cargo. We will mourn later." The officer nodded and sent the order. Ji-won turned away, her jaw tight. 53 names to add to the growing list of casualties. She would remember everyone. But right now, the mission came first. Across human space, the story was the same. People died and the work continued. Equipment broke and was repaired or replaced. Ships pushed beyond their safety limits broke down, and their crews transferred to other vessels. Nobody stopped, nobody complained. They had committed to this path, and humans did not turn back once committed. The galaxy was starting to notice. On the Rethani merchant world of Calvor, the Council of Traders met in emergency session. The Rethani were a species that valued profit above all else. They had watched humanity's frantic activity with growing concern. "The humans are flooding the market," said Council Leader Vresh. His tentacles writhed with agitation. "Rare Earth elements that were worth a fortune last week are now selling for half price. Exotic matter that took us years to collect is becoming common. This is destroying our profit margins." "Why are they doing this?" asked another council member. "It makes no economic sense. They are spending more to gather these resources than they can sell them for." "They are not trying to make profit," Fresh said slowly. "They are trying to pay a debt, all of it, immediately." Silence fell over the council. What the humans were attempting was unthinkable. No species paid debts that way. You negotiated. You extended timelines. You found ways to minimize what you owed. You did not gather resources at a loss just to pay everything at once. "If they succeed," one council member whispered, It will change everything. Every debtor species in the galaxy will start asking why they cannot do the same. Vresh nodded slowly. His species owed debts too. Large debts. Debts they had assumed would last forever. But if the humans showed another way, "Send observers," he ordered. "I want to know everything the humans do, and prepare economic models. If this changes galactic finance, we need to be ready." The Korath, a warrior species with a rigid honor code, watched with different eyes. In their great hall, the War Council debated what they were seeing. "The humans fight without weapons," said war leader Krask. "They sacrifice their people as readily as we sacrifice warriors in battle. But they fight against economics, not enemies. This is a form of warfare we do not understand." "Perhaps we should understand it," said another warrior. "We too owe debts from the wars. Honor debts that will take generations to repay. What if there is another way?" Back at Earth, Minho Choi worked in his office surrounded by floating screens of data. The numbers were good, better than good. They were going to make it. In 6 days, humanity had gathered resources worth more than they had produced in decades. The debt could be paid. But Minho was thinking beyond the debt now. He saw what was happening in the galactic markets. Prices were crashing. The Velcrin economy, built on controlling rare resources, was starting to shake. He smiled coldly and started running new calculations. Narihan joined him an hour later. She looked exhausted but satisfied. "The coalition is paying attention," she said. "I have been receiving messages from a dozen species. They want to know how we are doing this. Some are offering support. Others are threatening us with sanctions for disrupting markets." "Let them threaten," Minho said. "By the time they organize any response, we will be finished. And once we pay the debt, they will have no legal grounds to act against us. We are operating within coalition law." "Technically, yes, but the Velcrin will not accept this quietly. They cannot afford to. If we succeed, their entire economic model collapses." "Good," Minho said flatly. "Let it collapse. They built an empire on exploiting desperate species. They deserve to fall." On the Velcrin homeworld, Ambassador Thraxus received reports with growing alarm. The humans were actually doing it. They were gathering enough resources to pay the debt. Impossible, but happening. He called an emergency meeting with the Velcrin High Command. "We must stop them," he insisted. "If they pay the debt, it sets a precedent. Other species will follow their example. Our entire economic system is at risk." Grand Commander Zalthor clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. He was old, even by Velcrin standards, and he had built the debt system that controlled half the galaxy. "The debt contract is sacred under coalition law," he said slowly. "If we refuse payment when it is offered, we break our own laws. Other species will lose faith in Velcrin contracts. Then we declare their actions illegal," Thraxus said desperately. "Their mining operations violate safety regulations. Their flooding of markets causes economic disruption. We have legal grounds to intervene militarily." Zalthor considered this. It was thin legal ground, but it might work. And if they moved quickly before the humans actually delivered payment, they could seize Earth's assets and claim the debt remained unpaid. "Very well," he decided. "Assemble the Third Fleet. We will take Earth by force. The humans will learn that some debts cannot be escaped no matter how hard they try." Within hours, the orders went out. The Velcrin Third Fleet, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, began moving toward human space. 20 warships, each capable of destroying a planet. They would arrive in 2 days. The galaxy watched and waited to see what would happen when unstoppable force met immovable determination. Most species assumed the humans would surrender when they saw the fleet coming. After all, even humanity's desperate gamble could not stand against Velcrin military might. They did not know that humans had been preparing for this possibility. They did not know about the secret construction happening in the dark places beyond Neptune's orbit. They did not know that humanity, when pushed to the edge, did not just try to pay their debts. They prepared for war. The alarm woke Admiral Taeyang Kim from the first real sleep he had gotten in days. He was at his desk in seconds, pulling up the sensor display. What he saw made his blood run cold. 20 Velcrin warships had just entered the outer solar system. The Third Fleet. Each ship was massive, bristling with weapons that could reduce cities to ash. They were moving toward Earth in battle formation. "Get me Narration," he ordered, and sound general quarters. "I want every ship we have ready to fight." His communications officer looked up, her face pale. "Admiral, our defense fleet is only 12 ships. Against 20 Velcrin dreadnoughts we cannot win." "I know our odds. Sound the alarm anyway." Narration arrived minutes later, still in her sleeping clothes. She looked at the display and swore quietly. "They are moving early," she said. "We still have 1 day before payment is due. This is illegal under coalition law." "They are not worried about legality anymore," Taiyang said. "They are worried about survival. If we pay the debt, their whole empire starts falling apart. They would rather take Earth by force and claim we defaulted. Then we need to make the payment now. Today, before they reach Earth." Taiyang shook his head. "Minho says we are still 6 hours short of the full amount. We need more time." "We do not have more time. That fleet will reach Earth orbit in 4 hours. They stared at each other. Both knew what this meant. After everything humanity had sacrificed, after all the people who had died gathering resources, they were going to fail because the Velcrin cheated. The debt would remain unpaid. Earth would fall. Then Taiyang smiled. It was not a happy smile. "No," he said quietly. "We do not fail. Not today. Contact Heejin Song, tell her to implement Protocol Winter." "Protocol Winter?" "Taiyang, that is our last resort. Necessary. The Velcrin think they are coming to intimidate a weak defense fleet. They are wrong. Tell Hyejin to move now." Far beyond Neptune's orbit, in the cold darkness of the Kuiper Belt, Hyejin Song received the message. She had been waiting for this order, hoping it would never come but preparing for it anyway. Protocol Winter. The last resort. The thing they had built in secret while the galaxy watched their mining operations. She opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Commander Song. Protocol Winter is active. Repeat, Protocol Winter is active. All units move to attack positions." In the darkness, the ships began to move. Not mining vessels, not cargo haulers. Warships. Dozens of them, built in secret over the past week using the excess resources humanity had gathered. They were ugly things, brutal and practical. No elegant curves or decorative hulls. Just weapons, engines, and armor welded together into killing machines. Humanity did not know how to build beautiful warships, but they knew how to build effective ones. The Velcrin Third Fleet detected them 20 minutes later. On the flagship, Grand Commander Zalthor stared at his sensors in disbelief. "Where did they come from?" he demanded. "Intelligence said the humans had only 12 combat vessels." His tactical officer worked frantically at her console. "Unknown, Commander. I am reading 47 ships. No, 53. They keep appearing from behind asteroids and debris fields. They must have been hiding in the Kuiper Belt. Impossible. Building that many ships would require enormous resources. We would have detected the construction. Unless the mining operations were a cover. What if they were gathering resources not just to pay the debt but to build a fleet?" The tactical officer looked up, her face showing fear. Zalthor felt cold understanding wash over him. The humans had played them. Everyone in the galaxy had been watching the mining operations, watching the resource gathering, watching humanity throw itself into desperate labor. Nobody had thought to look in the dark places beyond the outer planets where excess materials could be quietly assembled into weapons. "Battle stations," he ordered. "All ships prepare for combat. Destroy the human fleet." The two fleets met in the space between Neptune and Uranus. The Velcrin opened fire first, their advanced energy weapons lancing through the darkness. 3 human ships died in the first salvo, torn apart by firepower they could not withstand. The human response was unlike anything the Velcrin had encountered before. Human ships did not try to trade fire at range. They accelerated straight toward the Velcrin fleet at maximum speed. Some carried missiles which they launched in massive swarms. Others carried nothing but armor and engines, turning themselves into guided projectiles. The Velcrin shot them down by the dozen, but there were always more coming. Then the first human ship reached Velcrin lines and rammed a dreadnought at full speed. The explosion destroyed both vessels and damaged 2 others nearby. Before the Velcrin could recover, 3 more human ships did the same thing. On the human command ship, Jiwon Park watched the tactical display with cold satisfaction. She commanded the strike wings, the fast attack ships crewed by volunteers who knew they probably would not survive. She opened a channel to her pilots. All wings, remember why we are here. Those ships represent the empire that enslaved our families. That took our freedom. That thought we would always be weak. Show them what humans do when pushed too far. Attack. Her squadron dove toward the Velcrin flagship. Defensive fire destroyed half her ships before they closed range, but the survivors launched their missiles at point-blank distance. The flagship's shields collapsed under the assault. Jiwan's own ship, damaged and leaking atmosphere, turned for one final attack. "For my family," she whispered, and rammed her ship into the flagship command section. Grand Commander Zalthor died instantly as his ship broke apart. The Velcrin Third Fleet, suddenly leaderless and surrounded by an enemy that fought with suicidal intensity, began to break formation. Some ships tried to retreat. Others fought on, but without coordination. The human fleet pressed the attack relentlessly. 2 hours later, it was over. 15 Velcrin warships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 5 fled back toward Velcrin space, damaged and demoralized. The human fleet had lost 38 ships. More than 2,000 people dead. But they had won. On Earth, Taeyang Kim watched the casualty reports come in. Each name was a person. Each person had family, friends, dreams. But they had died free, fighting for humanity's future. Nari Han stood beside him, her face pale but determined. "The galaxy is watching," she said quietly. "Every species just saw humans defeat the Velcrin Third Fleet. They saw us willing to die to protect our freedom. The Velcrin Empire is built on fear. We just broke that fear. And the payment?" Taeyang asked. Minho Choi entered the command center. Despite everything, he looked satisfied. "The final resource shipments just arrived," he said. "We have exactly what we need." "The payment is ready." Nari straightened her uniform. "Then let us finish this. Open a channel to the Galactic Coalition Council. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want every species in the galaxy to witness what happens next." The channel opened. Nari stood before the camera, battered but unbowed. "To the Galactic Coalition and all member species, humanity makes the following declaration. 200 years ago, we entered into a contract called the Eternal Debt Accord with the Velcrin Empire. Today, we fulfill that contract completely. The full debt amount, plus interest calculated to this hour, is hereby paid in its entirety." She gestured, and a fleet of automated cargo ships appeared on the display. These vessels contain resources equal in value to the total debt. They are being transmitted to Velcrin space now. The Eternal Debt Accord is fulfilled and terminated. Humanity owes nothing. Across the galaxy, species watched in stunned silence. Humanity had done it. They had paid a debt meant to last forever. They had defeated a Velcrin fleet. They had changed everything. And in doing so, they had become something the galaxy had never seen before, a species too dangerous to enslave, too determined to break, too willing to sacrifice to ever be controlled. The age of human submission was over. The age of human defiance had begun. 3 months after the payment, the galaxy was still trying to understand what had happened. The Velcrin Empire, which had controlled debt and trade for centuries, was collapsing. Their economy depended on rare resources staying rare and debts staying unpaid. Humanity had destroyed both foundations in 7 days. On Earth, Admiral Taeyang Kim stood in his office reading reports from across the galaxy. The news was extraordinary. 12 species had demanded debt renegotiations. 5 had simply stopped paying. The Rithani Merchant Council was in chaos as their profit margins disappeared. The careful economic order that had lasted for generations was breaking apart. Narihan entered his office carrying her datapad. She looked tired but satisfied. "The coalition has called another emergency session," she said. "They want to discuss humanity." "What are they saying?" "Everything. Some species want to thank us for breaking the debt system. Others want to restrict us because they are afraid. The Korath have proposed a military alliance. The Velcrin are demanding sanctions against us for economic terrorism." She smiled slightly. "Nobody can agree on anything." Taeyang looked out the window at Earth below, beautiful and peaceful. But he knew that peace was fragile. Humanity had won their freedom, but they had made enemies in the process. "What do you think happens next?" he asked honestly. "I think the galaxy is divided. Half of them see us as heroes who broke an unjust system. The other half sees us as dangerous lunatics who will sacrifice anything to get what we want. Both sides are right. On the Rithani homeworld, Council Leader Vresh met with representatives from 20 debtor species. They gathered in secret away from coalition oversight. The mood in the room was electric with possibility. The humans showed us something, Vresh said. They showed us that debts are not eternal, that the powerful can be challenged, that the system can be changed. He looked around the room. I propose we form a new alliance, a debt liberation coalition, as the humans called it. We help each other break free from predatory contracts. A delegate from the Chin spoke up. Her species had been in debt for 3 generations. The humans paid with sacrifice, she said. Thousands died in their mining operations. Thousands more died fighting the Velcrin fleet. Can we ask our people to do the same? We do not need to, Vresh replied. The humans already broke the system. They flooded the markets with resources and proved that debts can be paid completely. We just need to follow their example, and if we work together, we can do it without the same cost. The delegates talked long into the night. By morning, the Debt Liberation Coalition was officially formed. 18 species signed the founding document. Earth was invited to join as the founding member, but not everyone saw humanity's actions positively. On the Coalition Council floor, Ambassador Thraxis stood before the assembly. He had survived the defeat of the Third Fleet by not being on the flagship. Now he was leading the charge against humanity. The humans are dangerous, he said, his voice transmitted to every species. They do not follow proper economic procedures. They do not respect market stability. They threw their own people into death traps to gather resources. They built a secret war fleet while pretending to be desperate miners. They crashed galactic markets with no regard for the consequences. He clicked his mandibles together for emphasis. Worst of all, they have shown other species that the debt system can be challenged. This threatens the entire galactic economy. I propose that humanity be classified as a dangerous species under coalition law. They should be monitored, restricted, and prevented from spreading their reckless ideology. The vote that followed was close. Some species supported restrictions. Others opposed them. In the end, no decision was made. The coalition was too divided. But one thing became clear to everyone watching. Humanity had changed the game, and nobody knew how to respond. Back on Earth, Minho Choi and Commander Hyejin Song met with Nari Han and Admiral Taeyang Kim. They sat in a conference room discussing humanity's next steps. We have requests from dozens of species, Minho said. They want our help paying off their debts. They want to know our techniques. They want access to the resource zones we discovered. Should we help them? Asked Hyejin. Yes, Nari said firmly. We help them, not out of kindness, but out of strategy. Every species that breaks free from debt becomes an ally. Every species that stays in debt might become an enemy later. We need friends in this galaxy. There is another consideration, Taeyang added. We showed the galaxy what we can do when desperate. We need to show them what we can do when we have breathing room. We need to prove that humanity is more than just reckless survivors. We can be partners. We can be builders, Hyejin nodded slowly. She had lost friends in the mining operations and more in the battle. The cost of freedom had been high. Then we help them, she said, but we do it our way. We teach them to be self-sufficient. We do not create new dependencies. The whole point of breaking the debt system was to free people, not to replace one master with another. They all agreed. Humanity would help other species, but they would do it carefully. The goal was not to build a new empire. It was to create a galaxy where exploitation was harder and freedom was possible. Weeks passed. The Debt Liberation Coalition grew stronger. Human engineers taught other species the techniques for extreme resource extraction. Human economists showed them the loopholes in debt contracts. Human diplomats helped them navigate coalition law. Slowly, more species began to break free. The Velcrin Empire continued to collapse. Their economy could not survive without debt slavery and resource monopolies. Some Velcrin adapted, finding new ways to trade fairly. Others retreated to their home systems, bitter and defeated. One evening, Taeyang and Nari met again in his office. The sun was setting over Earth, painting the sky in brilliant colors. They watched in comfortable silence. Do you think we did the right thing? Nari asked finally. Taeyang considered the question. Thousands had died. The galactic economy was in chaos. Half the galaxy feared humanity now. But humans were free. The debt was gone. Other species had hope they never had before. I think we did what we had to do, he said. We showed the galaxy what humans are capable of. the good and the bad. We showed them that we will fight for our freedom, no matter the cost. We showed them that systems built on exploitation can be broken, and now they are afraid of us. Yes, but fear keeps predators away. The Velcrin enslaved us because they thought we were weak. Now everyone knows we are not. That fear might be the only thing that keeps humanity free. Nari nodded slowly. It was a harsh reality, but reality was often harsh. Humanity had earned their freedom with blood and sacrifice. Now they had to maintain it with strength and vigilance. What happens when the galaxy pushes back? She asked. Because they will. The powerful do not give up power easily. Taeyang smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had already calculated the risks and accepted them. Then they will learn that what we did to pay a debt was nothing compared to what we will do to protect our freedom. They think they have seen humanity at its most dangerous. They have not. They saw us desperate. If they push us again, they will see us prepared. Below them, Earth continued its peaceful rotation. But in the darkness beyond the planet, human ships patrolled. Not mining vessels anymore, warships, defense platforms, sensor arrays. Humanity had learned a lesson 200 years of debt had taught them: never be helpless again. In the months that followed, the Galactic Coalition updated their records on humanity. The new entry was simple but clear, written in every major galactic language and transmitted to every member species. It served as both information and warning. Species classification: high risk. Humanity has demonstrated unprecedented willingness to accept casualties and economic damage to achieve objectives. Unlike most species, humans do not calculate acceptable risk levels. They calculate acceptable loss levels. This includes potential extinction level sacrifice. Approach with extreme caution. Do not provoke. Do not enslave. Do not assume control is possible. Humanity operates on principles fundamentally different from standard galactic norms. When threatened, they do not retreat or negotiate. They commit fully to victory regardless of cost. Historical analysis shows this pattern in human conflicts dating back thousands of years. The pattern is consistent and reliable. Recommendation: maintain diplomatic relations. Support their integration into galactic society, but never under any circumstances put humanity in a position where they have nothing left to lose. The warning spread across the galaxy. Some species laughed at it. Some took it seriously, but everyone remembered what happened when the Velcrin tried to collect an eternal debt from humanity. They remembered that humanity repaid what they owed. They repaid it in full. They repaid it with interest, and in doing so, they shook the galaxy to its foundations. The age of easy exploitation was over. The age of careful respect had begun, and it all started because humanity refused to accept that some debts could never be paid. They paid their debt, and the galaxy would never forget the price.